As tens of thousands of refugees arrive in Europe from Africa and the Middle East, one French publisher has created a travel guide for their journey designed to help them act their way through settling in. The 90-page book is titled Hello, a simple enough introduction. The pages depict situations the asylum seekers may find themselves in with an extensive range of scenarios and possible conversation topics. There's even a card which is supposed to help refugees invite someone on a date. Though it will likely show the importance of learning local languages for the refugees as they attempt to settle into their new surroundings in Europe. Now, the following smartphone application has been developed by Hungarian activists pledging to assist asylum seekers with their journey across Europe. However, judging by the news feed it offers, the refugees are not very welcome. The only information they talk about is that of border closures. But the Hungarian authorities, though, have been more straightforward with their message. Here's what one mayor of a town on the border had to say.
De aki illegálisan próbálja átlépni a határt, könnyen börtönbe kerülhet. Magyarország rossz választás.
Yeah, that was a clip online of far-right mayor Laszlo Toroczkai. It's entitled A Message to Illegal Immigrants. His message, though, causing some outrage on the social media, being slammed as sinister and absurd. We spoke to the mayor, who's laying the blame for the migrant crisis on Western Europe.
It's obvious that politicians in Germany and Austria do not want to prevent illegal immigration. We have to ask why this is. Are European multinationals who control these politicians in need of cheap manpower? Or maybe the human trafficking mafia are paying bribes and influencing the politicians? There are many people to blame, including Angela Merkel and the German government, who said everybody's welcome. I think this is one of the causes of this crisis.
Well, Germany is often the preferred destination of refugees seeking to settle in Europe. A renowned German journalist, Udo Ulfkott, claims that politicians are actually profiting from the ever-growing wave of asylum seekers. Ulfkott is hiding his location after allegedly receiving death threats, but RT's Peter Oliver was able to find him.
We've come here to southwest Germany to meet with a controversial journalist and author about his most recent book, in which he claims that there's a huge industry behind the refugee crisis that Europe's currently facing. Now, we've been asked not to reveal a location where the interview will be taking place. This is because the journalist and author in question has received numerous death threats in the past.
Well, I'm a refugee in my own country. I had to leave my home 2 times because the police advised me to leave my home. There is many people want to kill me. It is especially people from the Muslim community, not only in Germany, it's worldwide. It is politicians, not only left-wing politicians. Our media and politicians always tell us profit is on the side of people, smugglers especially, and of people who rent houses. The landlords, they make money with refugees. I'm always laughing when I hear that, because the most profit is done by politicians, by the pharma industry, by big companies, and of course by journalists too. First of all, I'm asking why is Europe the place of the world that should take all those people? Why are other countries closing the borders? Why are the Middle Eastern countries, rich countries, neighboring countries like Saudi Arabia, rich Kuwaitis, Bahrainis, they have their culture, they have their beliefs. They close the doors. If you go back to the archives, you will find many, many politicians who have warned about this situation very openly. So who is now behind that all? There are several hands. It's not only one hand. There is the hand of ISIS. The Islamic State publicly has declared we will use those refugees to smuggle our fighters to Europe and to fight you and to kill you.
As this new book hits the shelves, it's sure to raise more questions over Europe's handling of the current migrant crisis. Peter Oliver, RT, Germany.
Larry King discussed the refugee crisis with the former US ambassador to the United Nations, Bill Richardson. He believes the current situation will severely test the unity of the European Union.
What is needed here is diplomacy, is European unity. I think this is going to be a test on the European unity because right now the Greek situation has hurt European unity, monetary issues, economic issues. But if they can come together on a common refugee policy that is humanitarian, that doesn't open the borders unilaterally, but find ways to set standards and maybe even certain numbers coming into certain countries instead of this piecemeal approach where some say yes and some say no.
It is RT International. Washington has always insisted that Syria's President Bashar al-Assad should be excluded from the fight against ISIL and step down from power. But now there are signs that key voices in the West are coming around to the idea of Assad's government being brought in from the cold. RT's Guyane Chichikan investigates.
In the U.S., there is a growing recognition that the strategy pursued by Washington and allies in the fight against ISIL has failed.
We have to acknowledge this is a total failure. It's just a failure. And I wish it weren't so, but that's the fact.
For all the millions of dollars that the U.S. has spent to train and equip Syrian rebels, the Pentagon says it now has no more than 5 fighters on the battlefield against ISIL.
Let's not kid ourselves, that's a joke.
General John Allen, who was picked by President Obama last year to lead the coalition fight against the Islamic State, has just announced his resignation. He is reportedly frustrated with how the fight is going. The commander of a Syrian rebel group that the U.S. trained and supported, Mohammed Daher, has quit because he believes the mission is a failure. It's against this backdrop of frustration that we may be hearing a change in rhetoric in the U.S. and in Europe. Before, to all questions related to Syria, there was a simple answer. Assad must go and nobody should deal with him.
Assad needs to go.
It is just further evidence that Assad has to go.
Assad cannot be a credible partner for us.
It is time for him to go.
Now it's getting a bit more nuanced.
We have not set our position as being so ideologically pure about the need for Assad to go that we wouldn't be prepared to discuss with the Russians, Iranians and others how some kind of short transition under international supervision couldn't take place.
I don't see Assad as part of a lasting solution for Syria, but for now, he definitely has to be part of the negotiations.
And we believe deeply that there has to be a political resolution here. But that political resolution can only come about through a negotiation.
Secretary of State John Kerry said the U.S. is ready for, quote-unquote, immediate discussions with Russia in order to work out an overlapping strategy to fight ISIL.
I think that Russia sees these terrorists essentially, descending on Damascus, and Russia looks to the lessons of what happened with regime change in Iraq and in Libya, and is basically saying, you know what, we cannot afford to let that happen.
Because of the failure of Washington's anti-ISIL strategy, the coalition now seems to be more open to new ideas on how to resolve the Syrian crisis. In Washington, I'm Guyane Chichikan, RT.
And just a bit